We're going into UFC Vegas 58 a little beaten and bruised up after what UFC 276 did to us. We did go 0 for 2. They were two small underdog stabs. We'll get into the entire recap. You guys know how we do things here. Other than that, UFC Vegas 58, just to give you a little bit of a background of the vibes going into this card. We profited 5 of our last 6 events. Of course, this last event being the one that we did not profit on. I'm coming into this upcoming event very hungry. I see some solid spots. I had a weird feeling about UFC 276. Not only did it not deliver from a betting perspective, I think the card really didn't really live up to the hype as well. We put that behind us. We go forward now and we profit this upcoming weekend. Let's get to it.
The teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 58. As you guys heard, I'm coming into this card very hungry. We've been having a great deal of success as of recently. And even though we took just 2 small losses this past card, I don't know why it's kind of lit a fire under me. I definitely want to make this upcoming card profitable. I'll let you guys know that right now. Been diving into a lot of tape for this upcoming card. And to give you an idea of what the fight card's looking like, I think it's an underrated card. Of course, taking place in Vegas, UFC Vegas 58. I'm excited for the main event. 2 Rafaels throwing down. RDA and Rafael Fiziev. That's an interesting matchup there, right? RDA, really a true veteran of the game at this point in time. He's had some trouble fighting some of the best wrestlers in the game. He gets a different stylistic matchup here. A guy that really loves to strike, Rafael Fiziev, should play out to be a fun fight. There's just a lot of up-and-coming talent all throughout the card. Caio, Borralho, taking on Armen, Tresean, Syed, Nurmagomedov, taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. Those are 2 fun fights. Jamie Mullarkey versus Michael Johnson's an underrated fight. Aiemann Zahabi, it's that time of year. Usually likes to fight about once per year, if that. It's that time that he'll get back into the octagon. I believe the brother of Firas Zahabi, taking on the former, or I should say the Ultimate Fighter winner, Ricky Turcios. Speaking of a relative of a guy or of a fighter that has a big name in the game, Antonina Shevchenko, of course, the sister of Valentina Shevchenko, taking on Courtney Casey. That's a nice stylistic matchup there. Tresean Gore, he's fireworks, taking on Cody Brundage. Really, a really underrated fight on this fight card is the Ronnie Lawrence versus Saiyokub Kakhramanov fight. That is a very underrated fight. And of course, we'll kick things off with that when we jump into UFC Vegas 58. First and foremost, if you guys please could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. And please catch me on all my social media platforms, most importantly, Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. It's highly appreciated. Shout out to all you guys out there. Shout out to all the supporters and the haters too. I know I got some haters out there that still tune in and listen to me. And the haters were out this past weekend. Of course, you guys know that. Let's go talk about UFC 276. Let's get into the nitty gritty. UFC 276, International Fight Week. Some big time fights in the fight card. I really felt that this card didn't deliver up to the hype. We'll jump into each fight specifically. The first fight actually was entertaining as long as it lasted. Joshua Stoliarenko submits Jessica Rose Clark. We talked about the potential of Jessica Rose Clark being submitted. I did edge Jessica Rose Clark. I thought that she could have avoided that submission. It would have been the better overall fighter. She landed a big shot early. I say early in the fight. It only lasted seconds. As soon as the fight started, she did land a big shot, but fell into the trap of being taken down and was not up to par with the ground game of Stoliarenko, who actually really has some skills down there in the mat. Pulled off a beautiful armbar, a very big victory for her in her career as she moves forward. Maycee Barber takes out Jessica Eye. Maycee Barber, she was coming into this fight as a pretty hefty favorite, and we've been riding the Maycee Barber train. No action here. I thought where the line was, I really didn't want nothing to do with it. Jessica Eye is the type of fighter that's known to sneak in a win or two against fighters she's not really supposed to defeat. She's the more naturally larger fighter. She had success for limited amount of time in this fight, but Maycee Barber, working with Team Alpha Male and Uriah Faber and all them, she has a lot of promise, moving forward. Still very young. Her grappling, her clinch game, her striking from the outside, everything. She does everything very well, and she's ferocious, and she's to be reckoned with for sure. So, in the next fight, Andrade Nunes, talk about another favorite coming through. Looked amazing against Uriah Hall. I thought about doing a 2-team parlay of Nunes and Barber. I did hesitate on that. I'm sure some of you guys out there did do that play there, and you would have been smooth sailing up until the point you cashed that ticket. Nunes really far ahead of Uriah Hall at this point in time. Andrade Nunes, his ground game is phenomenal, but was also holding his own on the feet, came in better condition. Uriah Hall now has shown that he's on the decline and probably won't be hanging around for too much longer, for being quite honest, in my opinion. Looking to be very tired early in the fight. He's getting up there in age. He's been around the block. We'll see. Dricus du Plessis takes out Brad Tavares. Now, this was a fun fight. Dricus showing to have different layers in his game. He's not just a one-trick pony that's going out there just knocking guys out. Going the distance here, 15 minutes with a proven veteran in Brad Tavares. I didn't want to touch this line personally based on the fact that I really have a lot of respect for Brad Tavares. I think he's an extremely tough, well-rounded fighter. Dricus, like I said, though, showing to have different skills. He's not just a guy that can go out there and knock you out. He can volume you. He has some tricky, unorthodox type of striking. And he's working on his overall game, and I think he could be a problem for many in the division moving forward. He was very impressive to me in this fight, and he's another fighter that we keep an eye on moving forward. Ian Gary takes out Gabe Green. Ian Gary, there's one word that really describes him, and it was funny because I was thinking it myself, and then the commentating team actually said the same exact thing. The dude's an absolute sniper. That's what he is. He's an absolute sniper. He's patient. He's a counter striker. At times he can press you as well, but he really looks to sit back and pick his shots with pinpoint accuracy. Super diverse with his striking. He's a well-rounded fighter, and I think that after the performance that he just put on against Gabe Green, I have a lot more respect for him, and there's a lot more promise on Ian Gary, in my opinion. I was a little bit skeptical on him, and again, I'm talking about as far as him being a very, very being a top fighter is what I'm trying to say as he moves his way to the top of the ranks. I was a little skeptical about that. I felt like he was being overhyped based on the whole Irish thing, trying to branch off Conor McGregor to an extent. I know they're different types of fighters from their personality, but kind of taking that Irish thunder with him, I was thinking he was a little bit overhyped, but I actually think he has some legit promise, and we'll see how far he can push that. Jim Miller pulls off the guillotine choke on Donald Cerrone. Of course, Cerrone hanging up the gloves after the fight. The winner of that fight was going to have the most wins in UFC history. It was a big fight. Both guys up there in age. There was history in this fight in a couple different ways, besides the winner being the most winning fighter in UFC history. Cerrone had that knockout finish over Miller the first time around. Miller has aged better than Cerrone over the years. Cerrone definitely hit a roadblock as of recently. It was time to hang him up. He knew it. And I'm very happy for Cerrone. Cerrone talked about the fact that he's excited to go over to the acting side of things. I think that's a great avenue for him. He's such a polarizing figure and just has an awesome image behind him. And I'm excited to see him in movies moving forward. I put this together on Instagram, just some big moments in his career. Some of the moments that stuck out to me, of course, the head kick knockout over Melvin Gillard. That was a solid fight. Going out there and shining on Alex Hernandez, Mike Perry, young and up-and-coming fighters at the time. Of course, I was really a big fan of him in his WEC days before he ever made the UFC walk. For all you OGs out there that really have been a fan of Cerrone from back then, you guys know what I'm talking about. He would always go out and put on fun performances. He had the high top fade. You really wouldn't know he was the cowboy type persona. I thought he was more of a street dude with the Boosie high fade, going out there putting on wars against guys like Vincent Henderson and all types of fighters. Rob McCullough, you see him tagging Razor Rob McCullough with the left hook. Cerrone was a fighter that I've always been a giant fan of. And I got to see him come over to the UFC. He was really one of the first fighters that came over from the WEC and made a name for himself, showing that those guys can compete with UFC fighters when they made that transition. So just a phenomenal career, and hats off to Donald Cerrone there. Jalen Turner goes out there and steamrolls Brad Riddell. You got to question the confidence level of Brad Riddell going into this fight after just being finished in the last fight. I think there was something going on with him. But at the same time, big shout out to Jalen Turner, because he has really resurrected his career, and everyone's talking about the promise he has now. Of course, the physical abilities are ridiculous. That was a major performance for him. It's a little bittersweet for me because you guys know I picked Jalen Turner, but I did hesitate on the official play. You guys know we had an official play on him against Mullarkey, and I was very close to pulling this trigger here, and I didn't, based on the fact that I do have a lot of respect for Riddell. I thought it could have played out closer. Obviously, I'm really regretting I didn't pull the trigger there. Pedro Munoz and Sean O'Malley. This was really the start of a very interesting main card. I guess it's a little some ups and downs throughout the card, depending on how you look at it. But I really wanted to see this fight play out. But even before the eye poke, no activity. I know some people are talking about the fact that Pedro Munoz was actually punched in his eye. There's some controversy there, whether or not he actually got poked or not. I don't know. What was your guys' opinions on that? I wanted to see that fight play out. We'll see what's next for both fighters. Brian Barberena goes to war with Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, obviously the age catching up to him, looking a little stiff out there. The head movement was going a little early on in the fight, but it started to slow down. And you saw him when he was slowing down, his head wasn't moving off the center line as much, and Brian Barberena was able to capitalize, land some big shots, and put him out. It was a solid stoppage. The fight needed to be stopped, and another big victory for Brian Barberena over a legend. Alex Pereira takes out Sean Strickland. This was my first official play. Obviously did not come through. I was on Sean Strickland here, and you know what? I stand behind the play. I'm not going to cower. I get it. Alex Pereira is a phenomenal striker. I didn't believe the fact that Sean Strickland was going to actually just try to engage in a striking affair with a guy like Alex Pereira. I couldn't believe it. He's such a well-rounded fighter, and obviously his fighter IQ is not really there. He should have been diving for singles, just making this an ugly grappling affair right from the get-go, and he did the exact opposite. He sat there right in open space and got dropped and got finished. So he got what he deserved, and I will definitely not remember I definitely will not forget what Sean Strickland just went out there and did from a betting standpoint, just showing to have major holes in his fighter IQ. I'm very disappointed in him there. And again, though, at the same time, Alex Pereira looks amazing, and I'm excited to see him against Izzy next. So I had another play here, and we'll jump right to it. It was Max Holloway. Now, just note something real quick. I had a 2-unit play on Sean Strickland that I grabbed at plus 105 early in the week, underdog odds. I felt that was the right move. At the time, Pereira had, 6 pro fights compared to 28 pro fights on Sean Strickland's end. Strickland's a well-rounded fighter. If he could have let this fight go to the later rounds, he could have actually hung on the feet a little bit more so. The danger wouldn't have been there as much. It just played out the worst way possible for him. I stand behind the play in that sense. I take that loss in the chin. And then we had a plus 155 shot, 1.5 unit play on Max Holloway that did not come through as well. But now take this into consideration. Overall, we lost 3.5 units on the card. Just my Chris Curtis play from the following weekend, just that one play that I hit from the weekend prior to this, more than covered all my losses on the card. So, we're still doing our thing over here. Just understand the losses were not significant. Max Holloway got absolutely outstruck by Alexander Volkanovski. I was not expecting to see this. For any of you guys that say that, of course, Volkanovski was going to go out there and do that, I don't understand how you saw that coming. A shout out to you guys that did. But Volkanovski's looked phenomenal, but Holloway's looked phenomenal as of recently. And if you guys actually rewatch Volkanovski Holloway 2, the fight was extremely close, and Holloway had a lot of success. The fight didn't look anything like number 3. All right, so I don't know how you guys saw that all coming. Holloway's looked good as of recently. I don't know if it was Holloway kind of dipping off, losing a little bit of that momentum. Kind of, he's been through some wars and whatnot, or is it Volkanovski just surging and becoming a better and better fighter? I don't know. You guys tell me. something I did just post here today. Volkanovski's still right there at the number 2 spot as far as the pound for pound ranking goes, right behind Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya at number 3 there. What are your guys' thoughts on the pound for pound rankings? Do you agree with this? Usman, Volkanovski, Adesanya, Oliveira too. That's an interesting one right there. All of them extremely talented. Adesanya goes out there, a little bit of a boring fight, but really was just working cannoneer from the outside, running circles around him. He has phenomenal defense, and you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Adesanya's, but the guy is a phenomenal fighter, and of course I had him winning this fight. Cannoneer looked a little hesitant in there. It's what Adesanya does to his opponents. They freeze up, and he'll pick them apart from the outside. His leg kicks are extremely fast, and his jab's beautiful, and I'm really excited to see him face off against Pereira. It was very cringeworthy, in my opinion, watching Adesanya leading up to the fight, all throughout the fight week, just how he kind of acts like he's Mr. Tough Guy and whatnot, which of course he is extremely tough, but it's just so hard for me to watch him. I'm just not with that whole new age TikTok type of a millennial type style with the French manicure and the pearl necklace. I don't know. I mean, I really can't even say what I think about it on here. And it's just not my style, man. I liked the old school Adesanya when he first came in, talking about he's the new dog on the yard, and I thought he had a decent amount of swag. I'm not really with his swag. I'm not with it, man. Watching him come out with the Undertaker thing was dope. I like the Undertaker walkout, but then seeing his French manicure on the vase as he's walking out, it kind of took away from it. You know, if you're going to be the Undertaker, you're coming out stone cold. What's up with that, man? I don't know. All right, so that recaps UFC 276, slightly unprofitable event, 0 for 2. It's okay. We're coming strong for UFC Vegas 58, and we're going to jump into that fight card right now. I really don't know how this is the first fight of the card. I think that this is a fight that could actually be on the main card as far as I'm concerned. Both these guys, action-packed fighters, extremely well-rounded, and they have a lot of promise. Ronnie, the Heat Lawrence, taking on Saiyokub, Kakhramanov. Saiyokub did take on Tresean Jones in his UFC debut. Also take note, he actually threw down with Umar Nurmagomedov, who was coming off a big win recently, and kept it somewhat competitive based on who he was battling in there with. There's no question he's an extremely well-rounded fighter. What he did to Tresean Jones late in that fight, pulling off the guillotine choke, finishing the fight after going to war for a while. The fight did go late. I believe it was a third-round submission victory for him there. He definitely showed that he's a promising fighter at only 26 years old. Ronnie Lawrence, ever since his fight on Dana White's Contender Series, has shown nothing but promise. Went out there and took out a talented fighter who's actually going to be fighting on Dana White's Contender Series this upcoming season. Pull him up real quick for you guys, just so you know who I'm talking about here. And that was Jose Johnson. And Jose Johnson, he's had some ups and downs, but he's a guy that some people are high on. And Ronnie went out there and just mauled him with his wrestling and his ground attack. He's shown that he's very well-rounded, throws beautiful spinning attacks on the feet. He's tough there, has good boxing. He can grapple, beautiful inside trip takedowns, beautiful single, double legs. He does it all. He'll get on top of you. He'll ground and pound you. He'll wear you out. Great cardio. He's coming off a big victory in his last fight against a very tough Mana Martinez. He was hurt late in that fight, of course. He was hurt late in that fight. He was very down on himself for how he ended that fight, but a very dominant performance up until that point. He just got tagged, but still showed resilience surviving there. Kakhramanov, we talked about him already. This is an extremely, extremely close fight, in my opinion. Keep in mind that Kakhramanov, he did take that fight on short notice, I believe, against Tresean Jones as well. So when you're breaking down tape and that, I believe that was a short notice fight. Still looked phenomenal. Coming into this fight with a nice camp here, or at least more ample time to train. And I think this has all the makings to be a war. I think there is a realistic chance that Kakhramanov can land a big shot on the feet. We just saw Lawrence get hurt in the feet just recently. There's a potential avenue for that. Kakhramanov is very capable with his grappling too. I think we'll see some nice scrambles, some high caliber scrambles. But I do think that Ronnie Lawrence should get the better of those wrestling exchanges. And I'm going to actually slightly edge Ronnie Lawrence here. I've been very, very pleased with what I've seen from him. And I think that he'll be a little bit better in those wrestling situations, and he could strike with Kakhramanov as well. It's an extremely close fight. We got a 1.5 inch reach advantage for Ronnie Lawrence. Take that for what it is. I don't know how much that really comes into play. A little bit, in the striking exchanges, a little bit. We will pull up the live line here at Best Fight Odds. And you will see that Ronnie Lawrence is a very slight favorite, right around a -135 to a -140 favorite. This is a fight that I truly feel can go any way, but I gotta lean Ronnie Lawrence. I gotta lean Ronnie Lawrence. I think he will be just slightly better in those exchanges. And keep in mind too, Kakhramanov at times has been controlled a little bit up against the cage, so he is a solid wrestler and a solid grappler, and he will spin out and he will transition and reverse some of those positions. But there's some times where he sits against the cage a little bit long and gets controlled. I could see Ronnie Lawrence controlling him a little bit. Nowadays with the judging system, I don't know how much that really, how much weight that carries. Obviously, we never know what's going on with these judges, but I think Ronnie Lawrence will be a little bit physically stronger there, and I like his spinning kicks as well. I will slightly edge Ronnie Lawrence. This line is very accurate. It's a very accurate line. Kennedy and Nzechuwku taking on Karl Roberson. Both these guys tasting defeat quite often as of recently. Karl Roberson coming off 3 losses in a row ever since Marvin Vettori took care of him in that big spot. Since then, losses to Brendan Allen and Khalil Roundtree. The Khalil Roundtree in his last fight was brutal. Roundtree handled him pride style. Was whipping the body kicks to the, body kicks on the ground though. He was standing over him, whipping body kicks as he was putting on an onslaught. Kennedy and Nzechuwku is a guy that I do enjoy watching fight. He's extremely tough. His chin is made of mahogany. He could eat a lot of shots. We've seen him wear guys out as guys try to take him out. He'll eat those shots and then flip it on them and knock them out. We saw him do that to Carlos Olberg. He's an entertaining fighter to me. I do enjoy watching him fight. This is a nice matchup here. I expect this fight to take place on the feet. I think maybe we see Karl Roberson try to mix in a couple takedowns here and there as things get spicy on the feet. Karl Roberson has shown to be tricky on the mat. He does have an underrated ground game. We've seen him pull off a couple different subs throughout his career. But I do question where Roberson is right now, coming off 3 losses in a row, and particularly his last loss, his loss against Khalil Roundtree, where he was just kind of bullied in there. That kind of showed where his mind's at as far as I'm concerned. I don't think he has a lot of confidence going into this fight, and Kennedy and Nzechuwku is a guy that has extreme confidence, even though he's coming off those 2 losses. The Nick Negamuriano fight was close, a split decision loss for him there. The Da Un Jung fight, he ate a lot of shots there early. He was trying to weather the storm. He just got hurt. I think that Kennedy will be a little bit more mentally tough going into this fight. He has 4 inches of a height advantage. He has 9 inches of a reach advantage, and he's the larger man here. I think he can keep this fight on the feet, throw those awkward straight shots that he throws. Kind of looks like a basketball player fight in there, but his craft is getting better and better, and I enjoy watching him fight. I will take Kennedy and Nzechuwku to win the fight. And as far as from a betting standpoint, it's pretty much a pick 'em. If anything, I guess you could say Nzechuwku is a very, very, very slight favorite, right around a -120 with the comeback at even odds on Karl Roberson. I like Nzechuwku to win this fight. One of these guys is going to bounce back with a victory here. Tresean Gore taking on Cody Brundage. Tresean Gore, if you guys remember him on The Ultimate Fighter, he really, really shined all throughout that show. The guy has shown to have some very, very promising skills, and he's a promising fighter. The sky's the limit with this kid. I know he's coming off that loss to Brian Battle, where he was fighting for the winner of the show, essentially. And he didn't come through in that fight. It was a tough fight. It was a great learning experience for him. Brian Battle, in my opinion, is an extremely underrated fighter as well. He's a big boy. He's well-rounded. And he made Tresean Gore work in that fight, and Gore came up a little short. Tresean Gore has dynamite in his hands. We know this. We've seen him go out there and knock dudes out left and right. Still only 4 professional fights, technically. But again, those fights on the Ultimate Fighter show, his amateur fights, he has more experience than you would think if you're just looking at the 3-1. Nothing but rave reviews from him. Coming out of Georgia, nothing but rave reviews. If you've seen people talk about him, Cody Brundage fighting at a Factory X Muay Thai. He has the wrestling pedigree. And listen, in Cody Brundage's last fight, he pulled off a phenomenal submission victory against Dolce Lingambula. Keep in mind, though, he was getting bullied and beat up in that fight before he got the submission. And Dolce is a guy that hasn't really shown to have the best fighter IQ. He's a little reckless in there at times, has some cardio issues. Cody Brundage took advantage of that, pulled a beautiful guillotine. I mean, it really was... it was Teller-esque. I mean, it really looked like a guillotine that I used to be pulling off left and right back in my tournament days. That's my go-to, and I do admire a beautiful guillotine when I see that. I loved it. I mean, he really was cranking that. A quick tappage from Dolce there, and showing to have different elements of his game. Do keep in mind, again, he has the wrestling in his back pocket. In that last fight that we just saw from Tresean Gore against Brian Battle, had some nice reversals in the grappling exchanges, was stuffing takedowns nicely at times. I could see him doing enough to keep Brundage off him, and I think there's a realistic possibility, a very realistic possibility, that Gore puts an onslaught on Cody early, gets a finish on him early. We saw Cody Brundage fall apart in the William Knight fight on Dana White's Contender Series, where he got the takedown early. William Knight got right back up to his feet and really put it on Cody Brundage there, got the finish. I think Tresean Gore can do something very similar to that, where he kind of mentally breaks Brundage down, even if Brundage gets a takedown or two. If Tresean Gore keeps working his whip with his feet and starts landing some big shots with his hands and whatnot, I could see Brundage kind of fizzling. I think that's a more likely avenue. Now, as far as Brundage goes, if he's going to get his hand raised, it's going to be him just pushing the pace. Like I said, he does have a legitimate wrestling background, a D1 athlete. He can push the pace on Tresean Gore and potentially work his way to a decision there. Or maybe he works his way to a submission victory if he gets in a solid position down on the mat. Tresean Gore will have a 3-inch reach advantage to go along with him having the better striking. I like Tresean Gore to win this fight. Let's go take a look at the live betting odds here over at bestfightodds.com. You will see Tresean Gore, similar odds to the last fight we just talked about. Tresean Gore is right around that minus 120 to minus 125 range, with Cody Brundage at a plus 105, a very slight underdog. I edge Tresean Gore to win the fight there. And if you're going to take Gore, I would even say he potentially gets the knockout there. Whereas Brundage, I would favor obviously more so with the decision, a grueling decision. I'll take Gore to get the knockout. I actually really like this fight here. Antonina Shevchenko taking on Courtney Casey. A more tailored matchup for Antonina Shevchenko to show off the skills she possesses. We know when she's in there with solid grapplers, they take advantage of that situation. Antonina Shevchenko is a fun fighter to watch on the feet. It's very frustrating seeing her controlled against the cage or taken down. Courtney Casey is extremely explosive on the feet as well. I love her body kicks. I love her overall striking. She's a fun fighter to watch. She can pull off some underrated submissions at times. Her hole in her game at times is her getting taken down as well. So these girls are similar to an extent. Of course, with Shevchenko having a more decorated Muay Thai background, but Courtney Casey also no slouch there. Courtney Casey 10-9 as a pro. That record does not describe who she is as a fighter. I say that every time we talk about her. Coming off a big victory against Liana Jojua. I believe Jojua has since been cut by the UFC. So not really the biggest victory, but she went out there and just put on a performance. She went out there and did what she should have done, which was just shine on the feet, bloodied Jojua up very badly. Of course, Courtney Casey, I believe, married to Jakar Close, or fiance, his girlfriend and boyfriend, whatever it is. They've been together for a while. Jakar Close, a very underrated, very solid fighter there. That's always a good thing when you have two fighters that are very focused and very skilled, and they can work and have a certain type of lifestyle together. I think that does wonders for their careers. And I do believe that Close is constantly making Casey a better fighter. I know Casey's not necessarily young. She's 35 years old. I still think that she's growing as a fighter slightly. Shevchenko's 37 and a half as well. Shevchenko will have an inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. She'll have some very, very slight length advantage there. I don't think that will play too much into who pulls this fight off. It's going to go down to who implements their striking game better, who lands the more crisp shots, who's fresher. And with another option in this fight for Courtney Casey to potentially have been working on her ground game, and maybe she tries to get this fight down to the mat. And I think Courtney Casey will be the better grappler if she looks to go down that avenue. On the feet, and may slightly edge Shevchenko to just be the overall better striker, but I'm not even so confident in saying that. I think there's also some real potential that Casey lands some big shots there too, and mixes things up and pushes her against the cage, and might look better on the feet there as well. You know what? I mean, I'm gonna pick Courtney Casey to defeat Antonina Shevchenko here. Antonina Shevchenko has just been a very flaky fighter. I know at times she could look very well, and I know this is somewhat of a tailor-made matchup for her, and maybe she comes into this fight and she shines. But you know what? I'll take Courtney Casey. I've been pleased with the performance that she's put out at times. Went to a split decision against JJ Aldrich, a very polished striker. Got taken out by Jillian Robertson, rear naked choke. Shevchenko ain't going out there and doing that. Before that, pulled off that armbar against Mero Barella, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Give me Courtney Casey here. All right, give me Courtney Casey. I think maybe we see Courtney Casey string off some takedowns and really do some work down on the mat. Courtney Casey is going to be the dog here going into this fight. You're going to see a tag next to Courtney Casey's name. You're going to see something like a plus 145 or a plus 155. She's an underdog here. Antonina Shevchenko right around that minus 180 range. I know exactly what everyone's thinking. This is a tailor-made matchup for Shevchenko. She comes through and gets the job done. Let's see how that fight goes. Aiemann Zahabi taking on the Ultimate Fighter winner Ricky Turcios. Ricky Turcios has been a treat to watch perform, especially as of recently. This guy is the epitome of an action-packed fighter. Just can mix things up, knows how to stuff the takedowns, knows how to work back up to his feet. So even if a guy's trying to make it a boring fight, trying to hang on him, he's constantly working, constantly making them work. He gets back up to his feet, throws out all types of electrifying and entertaining types of strikes. He'll throw spinning attacks on you. He'll look to volume you up like crazy. I just enjoy watching Ricky Turcios very much, and I enjoyed watching him ever since the Ultimate Fighter show, and where he finally did win the show. It took out Brady Haston, who's a very competent and very skilled grappler, a very solid wrestler, all that. Aiemann Zahabi, a guy that has a very high fighter IQ. Of course, you would expect that, being the fact that he's the brother of Firas Zahabi. Aiemann Zahabi, a guy that is constantly training in the gym, constantly becoming a better fighter, even though he's not out fighting as often as maybe you would like to see him. Like I said, I think he's averaging less than a fight a year. Like I said earlier, it's his time now to roll out of bed, put his boots on, and show up for that one year fight. But all jokes aside, the guy is a very cerebral fighter. I've seen him go out there and capitalize on fighters' mistakes, which is something you really like to see. He'll find the hole in his opponent's game. We saw him do that against Draco Rodriguez. Draco Rodriguez has some of the most suspect striking defense in the game. The head is just sitting there on a pedestal at all times, although he's a tough guy. Zahabi capitalized on that through a beautiful overhand right on the chin. Losses to Vince Morales and Ricardo Ramos before that. The Ramos loss doesn't look as bad right now. We've seen that Ramos is the real deal. The Vince Morales fight, I wasn't that impressed with the performance Zahabi put on there. We'll see if he can string off 2 victories in a row here against Ricky Turcios. I'm not necessarily seeing that happening. I think Turcios, he'll have the volume edge here as this fight goes on, especially if it goes to the judges' scorecards. Turcios will be the guy really putting the volume out there in the feet. He has that traditional martial artist type of style too. He'll throw all types of kicks and just has a quick strikes, and he'll really put the volume on Zahabi, where Zahabi is more of a counter fighter. He's looking for that slick counter strike, and I think that can go against him if it goes to the judges' scorecards as well. Of course, Turcio always live for a finish as well. He's a well-rounded dude. He could pull off a sub, and he could pull off a variety of finishes as well. I like Ricky Turcios here, 29 years old. Zahabi creeping up on 35 years old in the bantamweight division. His body should be rested up. Like I said, he hasn't been through a lot of wars. Turcios will also bring in a 4-inch reach advantage for those striking exchanges on the feet, as well as he looks to use his footwork and strike from the outside and whatnot. Give me Ricky boy here. You got to love the hair that he brings in. He'll probably have it braided up or whatnot. I don't know what he'll have, but he's a fun fighter to watch, and he has an interesting personality. If you guys see him on IG, or if not, you'll see him in his post-fighter speech. The guy's an interesting guy, and I think that he's a fighter that could potentially bloom to be a real solid addition to the division, and the guy that a lot of people will be talking about moving forward. He just needs to be more and more active, and people will really gravitate towards his fighting style and enjoy watching him perform. From a betting standpoint, Turcios coming into this fight at almost 2-to-1 odds. Zahabi at a plus 160 line. I'm not crazy about Turcios as a minus 190 favorite here. Maybe I'd like him more at like a minus 160 line, minus 170 line. Like I said, Zahabi just extremely crafty, and we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Him and his brother, I'm sure they're looking at some of Turcios' losses in the past, and they're looking if they could find a nice little avenue to get the job done. They're very smart men, and there's potential they do something like that. Mana Martinez had a knockout victory over Ricky Turcios just 3 fights ago. We know Mana Martinez packs a punch, but that was very recently. Zahabi, we know he has some power as well. And then I lost to Boston Salmon on Dana White's Contender Series. That was 4 years ago. He was only 25 at the time. Boston Salmon, the ex-boxer, he's really had a tough time over the last couple of years. Been getting knocked out by everybody. You would have liked to have seen Turcios go in there and get the knockout. He wasn't able to do that. And, he put on an entertaining performance there. But let's see how Turcios performs here. I think he gets the job done. But the line, be a little wary of it. Don't be too confident throwing the kitchen sink at Turcios, in my opinion. Cynthia Calvillo taking on Nina Nunes. How do you guys like the way I just said Cynthia's name? For years, you guys have been giving me crap. I've been calling her Calvillo. I think I said that pretty smoothly. I'm not going to say it again. I said it once. You guys heard what I said. And Cynthia coming off 3 losses in a row. Nina Nunes also coming off a couple of losses there, coming off 2 losses. Nina Nunes, of course, delivered the baby. She was out the fight game for a little bit, delivering. I guess technically not delivering. I guess you could say I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to go into all that. But Amanda Nunes' daughter, they have a daughter together. Nothing but respect to both those women. Both very, very, very stringent. What words can I use to describe the couple? Amanda Nunes, people consider her to be one of the GOATs of the game. Nina Nunes has an underrated resume, really. If you go back before her 2 losses, she has some decent victories. Took out Claudia Gadelha. Randa Marcos, Angela Hill. Those aren't some bad names. We could run the table. You can go back more. she's a decent striker. These women, they have some skills. They show up. Of course, training at American Top Team for years. Not training there anymore, I believe. I think they did branch off from Top Team. Cynthia, you got to wonder where she's at mentally coming off these 3 losses. I feel like she really hasn't looked herself in the last couple fights. Now, you do keep in mind losses to Jessica Andrade, Caitlin Chikogian. I know some of you guys love the way I say Chikogian's last name as well. Andrea Lee, an underrated fighter. She's been in there against some stiff competition. I still believe that Cynthia, she has some solid skills when she comes into the octagon. She has some good boxing. She has the wrestling pedigree. I would like to see her work on her cardio and her dieting and whatnot. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little harsh on her, but sometimes I wonder about those aspects of her game. Nina Nunes has looked to rebounded from the pregnancy pretty well as far as her body and whatnot. I think that she's ready to go. I'm sure she's extremely motivated after taking those 2 losses there. She's hungry for a victory. You see her here with Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes, of course, I know she's motivated for her upcoming fight, getting that rematch against Juliana Pena. That's on the horizon there. I really haven't had a chance to check out The Ultimate Fighter. Are you guys watching The Ultimate Fighter or what? I got to catch up on the show there. Back to this fight. How do I see this fight taking place? I think that Nina Nunes can definitely go out here and get the job done. Cynthia, like I said, hasn't been really looking herself as of recently. I wonder if she's going to change things up here and get back to, prime Cynthia Calvillo. See her working on her boxing game, her boxing being one of her strengths. She could wrestle as well. We talked about that. I think that Cynthia will be slightly ahead in the boxing exchanges. I have a little bit more faith in her there. Another thing I'll say is that Nina, in her fight against Mackenzie Dern, of course we know that Mackenzie is the black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's phenomenal down on the ground. I didn't like the way that Mackenzie Dern was able to take down Nina Nunes so easily. using her wrestling to get the fight down to the mat. It wasn't like she pulled guard and then worked her jiu-jitsu to pull off that armbar. She actually took her down, got on top of her first, and it looked like it was done very easily. You got to wonder where Nina Nunes and Amanda Nunes are at. Both them not looking like themselves as of recently. Of course, Amanda Nunes with that big loss, changing gyms and whatnot. I mean, are they really mentally in the game like they used to be back in the day when they were an American top team around, those types of fighters and they were on a stringent training regimen? Things might be a little different these days. I don't know. Something to wonder. So both these fighters have question marks, in my opinion, going into this fight. I will edge the fact that I think that Cynthia has shown to be a better fighter overall. She's a minus 155 favorite here. I will take Cynthia Calvillo to win this fight. I think that she'll be the better fighter overall. Wouldn't be surprised if she gets a takedown or two, gets on top, uses some ground and pound, and gets the better of the boxing exchanges. But at the same time, I would not be shocked if this fight plays out closely. And if Cynthia looks a little slow out there once again, cheating with her meals and whatnot, I think that she's, I don't know, something just tells me that she's, enjoying herself with her eating habits. I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy, making this all up. We'll see. I'll edge Cynthia Calvillo to show up and get the job done, though. Some really nice matchmaking by the UFC here. Michael Johnson taking on Jamie Mullarkey. This fight and the Kakhramanov versus Lawrence fight, I feel were just really nicely done, nicely put together. They were the fights that needed to happen, I felt like. Or maybe not needed to happen, but were just the right fights. Just really nice matchups. Michael Johnson coming off that big victory against Alan Patrick, a guy that's up there in age, and I don't know if we'll see him fight in the UFC again. Nevertheless, Michael Johnson got a big knockout. That was kind of reminiscent to the Dustin Poirier knockout. We know Michael Johnson can sling that leather. Jamie Mullarkey coming off a tough loss to Jalen Turner. We're really understanding what Jalen Turner's about, though. So really that performance not so bad in retrospect. Jamie Mullarkey can strike for sure. He has some dynamite in his hands. Knockouts over Devontae Smith and Kama Worthy as of recently. I think Mullarkey's an underrated fighter. Michael Johnson, again, a phenomenal striker, a true athlete, but definitely has some major holes in his game. You don't lose as many fights as he has without being a fighter that has some holes or something wrong in your game. He's had a lot of losses against opponents that he should have went out there and defeated too. So that's a red flag. There's something a little off with him. You never know what Michael Johnson you're going to get. We've seen him gas out at times. We've seen him struggle with his takedown defense. We've seen him clipped on the feet as well. At the end of the day, I'll say this much. I enjoy watching the man fight. He's a cool dude. Nothing but respect to Michael Johnson. But just understand he's not a guy that you can really trust, if you ask me. But he's also a guy that can go out there, and if you bet against him, he can get an amazing knockout and shut your money down. Now, Jamie Mullarkey, we talked a little bit about him. I really believe he's an underrated fighter. And going into this fight, I think he can more than hang with Michael Johnson on the feet. But I'm not necessarily sure that I think that that's the route he should go. I could see him getting a knockout against Michael Johnson on the feet. I could see it being a war where it's really a coin flip and one man might get taken out at any given time. But I think if Mullarkey goes in there, throws a couple of shots and mixes in takedowns and gets Michael Johnson a little bit tired as the fight goes on, I think it favors Mullarkey. I bet you Mullarkey comes into this fight in better shape. I bet you he comes into this fight a little bit more well prepared, a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more hungry. Again, some of these things I'm saying might be assumptions, but it's based on some things that I've seen. Michael Johnson, 36 years old at this point, while Mullarkey's 27. I feel that Mullarkey obviously has a lot more to deliver to the game here. This would be a big win for him against a guy who has a name in the game, and he needs to get this victory. You don't want to have 2 losses in a row, having lost 4 of your last 6. I think Mullarkey is a better fighter than that type of resume there. So my gut tells me that Mullarkey is going to show up, and it's going to be a dangerous fight for him. Again, especially if he goes out there and trades, he'll have a half-inch reach advantage. He's 2 inches taller. Not much going on there. Mullarkey's a very technical striker as well. Michael Johnson putting that work in with Henry Hooft, and they get down over there at Sanford MMA, and Michael Johnson just is an absolute gladiator. So That all being said, I do have Jamie Mullarkey to win the fight. And right now, Mullarkey up as high as a minus 265 favorite. So people really on Mullarkey here. Now, that line is a little interesting to me based on the fact that we talked about the dangers that Mullarkey will face in the feet. Mullarkey usually likes to engage in a striking type of match. And if he hangs around there too much, there's definitely potential to see that Michael Johnson type of knockout. The one he did against Alan Patrick, the one he's done against Dustin Poirier. Just a vicious, brutal knockout where he follows you down to the mat and tags you up one more time. And there's that type of possibility. So just be wary if you're taking Jamie Mullarkey there. But Mullarkey is the better overall fighter, and the red flags of Johnson may persist here in this matchup. And Mullarkey, if he fights a smart fight, I could see him getting some takedowns and really wearing Johnson out and just being the better man overall. Give me Jamie Mullarkey to get the job done here, and potentially by finish as well. There's that finish line is live. Maybe Johnson's able to survive, hang around, but give me Mullarkey to win the fight, that for sure. We talked about a fight that potentially should be on the main card earlier, the Kakhramanov versus Lawrence fight. Hey, if you want to look for a fight that you want to swap that with, this is probably the fight here. Jared Vanderaa taking on Chase Sherman. These guys have both only won one of their last 5 fights. They go out there, they always deliver. These guys go out there, they look to take their opponents out. They show up, and nothing but respect to both of them. Let me be clear there. No disrespect here, but these are definitely 2 lower level UFC heavyweight fighters. Chase Sherman, a guy that he's went over there, had a bare knuckle fight, came back to the UFC after that little stint. A big knockout against Ike Villanueva. Probably the biggest moment of his fighting career. Very, very stiff on the feet, lower level striking defense. He's there to be hit. We saw what just happened to him recently against Alexander Romanov. We know Romanov is a very decorated wrestler, a very high caliber fighter, but what he went out there and did to Sherman was ridiculous. Just it looked like an older brother just pummeling his little brother after the little brother went and snitched about spilling Kool-Aid on the couch or something like that. I mean, it was an onslaught. And meanwhile, Jared Vanderaa, he's such a good dude. He really is. And, after his loss against Alexei Oleinik, you see him talking with Oleinik in the back and whatnot, trying to learn how he pulled off the sub. He's always trying to learn. He's only 30 years old. He's not that old. Still some potential for him to maybe right the ship and potentially hang around. I mean, he gets a victory here. Maybe he's going to get another opportunity. Maybe he can string off one and just kind of hang around. His performance against Andrei Arlovski, a lot of people thought he won that fight. I didn't, but I thought that he showed to be decently competent on the feet, putting some volume out there. I could see him getting the better of Sherman on the feet here. And I think that there's potential for him to get on top of Sherman down on the mat and do some work down there as well. He's the more naturally larger man. Both guys 6'4", the 2-inch reach advantage for Vanderaa, but Vanderaa does carry more weight. Sherman, he's not the largest heavyweight fighter, really. I think there's potential for Vanderaa to get on top. I'm going to edge Vanderaa to get the job done here. And I think that he'll just be slightly better on the feet. And again, there's potential for him to get that takedown, and he's slightly better down on the mat. I think that he should get the job done. Now, do I say that with full confidence? No, I don't. But based on breaking down tape and whatnot, the Vanilla Gorilla, look at this tattoo he has on his arm too. We got a beautiful view of that. Was that Poseidon? All right. Let me not say nothing. But I think that Chase Sherman can easily be looking at 5 losses in a row, and he'll have to go back. I think he'll go back over to the BKFC scene or the bare knuckle scene with BKFC this time, and I could see something like that happening. He somewhat has a name for some reason. I could even see him going to Bellator or something like that. Just for whatever reason, Chase Sherman has that name. He's had a lot of UFC fights. Only 32 years old still. But Vanderaa should get the job done. From a betting perspective, Vanderaa right around a minus 180 to a minus 190 favorite. I think the line's pretty accurate. All right, we'll see how that fight goes down. Heavyweight boys throwing down. There's potential for Vanderaa to get hurt, potentially get clipped. Unlikely, but I think Vanderaa gets the job done. We got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. First off, Douglas Silva de Andrade, he has a big career waiting for him after he retires from the fight game. 37 years old. He definitely needs to start his own branding of physical fitness or supplements or whatnot, because the guy obviously is testing clean, right? The UFC's on top of these guys, and this is a guy almost now he is 37 years old, and it still comes into his fights looking phenomenal. I mean, this is a guy that just looks like an absolute action figure. So he has a career waiting for him, or a business opportunity waiting for him after he's done with the fight game. I don't know how much longer he's going to be fighting, but based on his recent performances, he actually might be hanging around for a while. The fight against Sergey Morozov was very impressive. Took some damage early, showed to have a granite chin. He hung strong. Eventually, he did get the rear naked choke. An absolute war. Showed to be very resilient. Got the knockout over Gaetano Perello before that. The loss to Lerone Murphy. Murphy's a tough fighter. Before that, the victory against Renan Barao, the shell of Borralho. We should be clear on that. But hey, he's getting a fight here against the guy in Saad Nurmagomedov, a fighter that I am very high on. A very talented striker is Nurmagomedov. I know for some of you guys that don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do, but you see a name like Nurmagomedov, you think of Khabib, you think of the Dagestanis and whatnot. Saad is more like a Umar Nurmagomedov. He's more of a striking first type of fighter. Beautiful leg kicks to the body, to the head, to the legs, throws them all out there. He's shown to have a diverse skill set with his submission game. He could really do it all, and I think that he's really starting to put it all together now. Used to fight in the flyweight division. I definitely think that was a mistake. The bantamweight division is his division. I like how he's filled into his frame, and I'm very high on him. I could see Nurmagomedov easily sliding into the top 15 in the near future, and there is another Nurmagomedov in the top 15, as you see Umar there at rank number 15. I could see Saad Nurmagomedov hanging with a lot of these guys, man. The Jack Shores, the Frankie Edgars. Frankie Edgar obviously past his prime, but I could see him hanging with a lot of these guys, man. Pedro Munoz. Some people say it, man. The rankings don't really mean as much these days. I think that Saad can go out there and take out a lot of these guys in the top 15. So I'm interested to see him go out there, get a victory against Douglas Silva de Andrade first and foremost, get 3 victories in a row. Really putting things together now in the UFC up until that point in time. If he gets this victory, I believe he will be 5-1 with that one lone loss against Raoni Barcelos, who was at one point in time a very talented fighter. He's aged and fell off a cliff. But understand that Barcelos in his prime was a tough outing, and he dropped that fight. It's okay. He learned from it. In this fight here, he'll have a 1.5 reach advantage. He's 1 inch taller. He's a little bit lengthier than Douglas. Douglas, a very well-rounded fighter. This is really a solid spot for Saad to go out there and put a feather in his cap, get a big victory here, and then work his way to the top of the ranks. That being said, let me just be clear. Douglas Silva de Andrade is very well-rounded. He's very dangerous. He's resilient. We saw it in the last fight where he just refused to give up and was just never out of that fight. A lot of other fighters would have cowered and gave in. He's not that type of fighter. So if you're betting against him, this is a guy that definitely has the potential to upset the party and definitely has the potential to just not give in and continue to hang tough and try to upset you there. Hopefully you don't see a guy like Saad blow his load early, start to get a little tired, and De Andrade goes out there, lands a big shot late in the fight after Nurmagomedov was looking good early in the fight. There's some potential for those types of things. 32 pro fights compared to 17 pro fights of Saad Nurmagomedov. That all being said, I definitely got Saad Nurmagomedov to win the fight. We know he was an official play of mine against Cody Stamann. I've been high on him, and I'm not going to turn my back on him yet here. Excited to see if he can get the job done. I do got him to win the fight. He's up around a -250 to a -275 favorite. It's high. It's up there. What are you going to do with that line? It's high. It's up there, man. I would have liked it a little bit lower if you're targeting from a betting perspective, but he's just so talented. Maybe some of you guys get greedy and throw it in a parlay. It's a high line, man, against a guy that's very talented and tough in Douglas. So I got Saad Nurmagomedov to get the job done. He should handle things. Caio taking out Armen Petrosian. two of the best fighters that come off the Dana White's Contender Show, especially Caio. I'm really starting to get high on this kid, man. I made a big mistake. I did fade him in his last fight. It was definitely a learning lesson for me, and it wasn't because I was really low on his abilities. It was more so that I was very high on Omar Gachiev, his skill set. I feel like he is a very talented fighter, and what Caio went out there and did in that fight was really impressive to me, was out wrestling him in that fight and just showing that he's a very, very solid wrestler. You don't typically always think of Brazilian fighters as the most talented wrestlers. Of course, they're phenomenal athletes, well-rounded. They have the jiu-jitsu for the most part, beautiful striking. You don't typically look at them as guys that are the most suited in the wrestling department. I think Caio is. I think Caio is very underrated wrestling. He could do it all, but this is a guy that really gets on top of fighters and controls them down there. He's very well-rounded. I love his frame, 5'10" with a 75-inch wingspan. That's interesting. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage over the 6'2" Armen Petrosyan here. Now, Armen Petrosyan, he's a very talented striker, very technical. Of course, striking is his background, and fight to fight, he's only going to be way more well-versed as his overall game catches up to his striking. We've seen some of the top fighters in the game right now having success with that type of recipe. Israel Adesanya, of course, I'm going to bring up Pereira. I mean, these are the guys at the top of the middleweight division right now that had the striking background, and they were able to work that type of road to the top. So just wanted to point that out real quick. I mean, these are two guys in the middleweight division Armen Petrosyan in the middleweight division that's going to look to go down that route. 7-1 as his overall game picks up. Let's see how far he could push it. He has a major test in front of him, though. Caio Borralho, 11-1. Like we talked about the victory he just had. 2 victories on Dana White's Contender Series, and particularly the first one against Aaron Jeffrey. I'm very high on Aaron Jeffrey. Aaron Jeffrey just had another big victory outside the UFC as he works his way eventually into the UFC. Mark my words, he will come into the UFC. He will do his thing. So some big victories there. 2 of his last 3 opponents against high-level fighters. Armen Petrosyan, in my opinion, did lose that Gregory Rodriguez fight. I thought he lost the fight. I thought it was very close. But I didn't have him winning that fight, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys did or not. On the Dana White's Contender Series show, got taken down early. Eventually worked his way up to defeat, got the devastating knockout. I think there's an avenue for Caio to really use some control time here in this fight. Can also hang on the feet, but for him to use the wrestling and really control this fight down on the mat. Armen Petrosyan, extremely dangerous on the feet as well. He's working on things here. Both these guys have so much potential ahead of them. I like Caio Borralho to win the fight, though. Right now, right around a -205 to that -215 range, but a 2-1 favorite here. Now, look for him to lean on the grappling, but also stifle Armen striking on the feet. Hopefully, he doesn't get too comfortable and entertain the striking affair too much, because Petrosyan is very, very technical. He's a very technical fighter and can land that big shot on anybody. But I like Caio Borralho to win the fight. And I think the line's pretty accurate. And if you're looking to target Caio there, I wouldn't be opposed to a -200, 210 line. I like Caio, man. You keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him moving forward. You guys, if anyone's looking to join a new sportsbook, reach out to me. I'll send you over my referral link. Everyone that's done it so far has been reaching out to me. They've been really enjoying the sportsbook. I told you it's a good one. I'll also give you all my official plays for free for any card you want. If you sign up through my referral link, it's much appreciated for me. It helps me out. You're going to get a deposit bonus in your account as well. Reach out to me for details. I'll explain how it works. It's very easy. And I mean, they got all the UFC betting lines, but more importantly, for all you diehard MMA fans, they got a lot more than just that. They do have all the Bellator cards. They have PFL. They got Cage Warriors, Titan FC. I mean, they got a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're looking to really bet on MMA as a whole, they have it all on Bovada.lv. So reach out to me if you guys are interested, and I'll help you guys out with that. And you guys will also be helping me out. I appreciate you guys. RDA taking on Rafael Fiziev. Speaking of the rankings, let's just pop into the lightweight division real quick and see what we got going on over here. Drop that down. Of course, Charles Oliveira, the king. They're not showing him here as a champ, but he's the champion. We know the situation there. As we scroll down, you see Rafael dos Anjos ranked number 7, and you will see Rafael Fiziev ranked number 10. So both these guys right towards the middle of the pack in the top 15. That's no joke. Cracking the top 15 in the lightweight division is a serious accolade. The lightweight division, a lot of people believe this to be the weight that the most amount of men walk around at, which makes it even more impressive when you're the top lightweight fighter in the world, in my opinion. Of course, we've seen situations where heavyweight fighters jump into MMA and they really thrive quickly. I have the lightweight division is just, it's my division personally. I love it. Rafael dos Anjos, he's bounced back and forth up in the welterweight division, back down to the lightweight division. I like him at the lightweight division. I think he has a nice frame for the division. Such a well-rounded fighter. The performance he just put on against Renato Moicano was amazing. Now, Moicano did take that fight on short notice. Just keep that in mind. And the victory over Paul Felder, just again, showing that he can push the pace for 5 rounds. He's so well-rounded, really dug deep and got the job done there. And then some of the losses he's had as of recently, of course, were against some of the best wrestlers in the game, right? Who did he lose to now? We'll run through some of those losses. Michael Chiesa, a very big, tough wrestler. Not the Leon Edwards loss. We'll scroll past that. Talking about the Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington losses, of course. The number 1 and number 2, or whatever you want to call them, 1A, 1B. A lot of people feel Colby's right there with Usman. Those losses, they really don't mean too much to me. Leon Edwards, such a skilled fighter as well. RDA looks like he's aging like a fine wine, and he's just getting better and better. To me, RDA is as much of a gladiator as there is in the fight game. This is a guy, look at him, still in phenomenal shape. All this guy does, all he must do is just train and just think about fighting. He just doesn't get bored with it. How old is RDA now? RDA, 37 years old, but just looking to be in the best shape of his life and just has a world of experience behind him. Rafael Fiziev now, a devastating striker. We know him as, believe he is either current or former coach, striking coach over at Tiger Muay Thai. We know he's putting work over at Sanford MMA. He's just a devastating striker, carries some of the biggest power in the division. If he hits and lands on you flush, you're going out. There's just no question about that. There's some real potential for him to get a knockout on RDA here. That's without being said. We know that if he lands, he's putting anybody out, including RDA. Dude's just a compact, explosive, striking machine. And you see him here. He's ready to go. Now, we know this fight was supposed to happen a couple times. 2 times this fight fell apart. We know one time Rafael did get COVID and whatnot. Fiziev did get COVID. Didn't seem to have any type of issues or whatnot from a health standpoint. Seems good to go. Seems healthy from everything I've seen on IG. And I'm going to edge Rafael Fiziev to get the job done here. I've been a big fan of his. I think that he's going to have the edge on the feet. And I think he's just a phenomenal athlete. I think he should be able to keep RDA off of him as far as RDA looking to grapple and be leech to him against the cage and working the takedowns in and whatnot. And Fiziev is just devastating on the feet. And I think he has a lot more potential. He's more in the prime of his physical capabilities, cracking, almost about to crack that 30-year-old mark there, which to me, I favor fighters right at that 30 mark, 30 to 32. I really believe that's the prime of fighters and their fighting career. Of course, every division's a little different, but in the lightweight division, I really like that 30 to 32. RDA now, 37 and a half. He's looked great. I know he's looked great like we talked about, but I'm going to lean Fiziev here. I think that Fiziev is just going to be the young line that comes in and handles business. He'll have a 1.5 reach advantage. Both these men the same height. I think Fiziev can keep him off of him enough there to get the job done. And we take a look at the betting line. You're going to see that Fiziev right now is up to the minus 220, up to a 220 line. You'll see him as low as a minus 205, so just slightly over 2-1 favorite. People backing Fiziev here. The hype train on him is continuing to roll into a matchup against a guy in RDA who's just looked phenomenal. I'll say this from a betting perspective. I got to say the value is on RDA here. RDA has looked great. I don't see any reason to really believe that you're going to see a major drop-off as far as him getting up there in age. Just looked good. Just went out there, put an onslaught on Moicano. Do note in that fight, even when he had success, there was some times where he was even kind of people thought that he was going on cruise control because he felt bad from Moicano and whatnot. And he ate some shots too, and I don't think that was the case. I think that he was just kind of, hitting some rough patches in the fight. He had a phenomenal performance, but you guys understand what I'm saying. You do that against a guy like Fiziev, he can put your lights out at any given time. So you don't want to see RDA giving Fiziev any opportunities to land shots on him on the feet. Fiziev will put you out. I just think Fiziev is just going to be a compact, explosive machine, and I could easily see him getting a knockout here. He can knock anybody out. Give me Fiziev to win the fight. From a betting standpoint, though, value on RDA. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up UFC Vegas 58. I think it's a sleeper card. Some very good fights. I think this has big potential to be a very profitable night. Got to give you guys some parting words, man. I hope you guys all had a great 4th of July. Hopefully you guys are rested up, recovered from the long weekend there. Obviously, this video coming out to you guys a little bit later because of the holiday and whatnot, but I do plan on getting these videos out to you, quicker, more soon. What can we say? Let's talk about the haters real quick, man. For those of you guys that are feeling any type of hatred coming towards your way, just remember, man, that means that you're doing things right and things are really going well for you. That's something I've noticed here with the channel. Every time we've had good success, like as of recently, hitting 5 of our last 6 fight cards, really profiting a lot. Going 12 of 13 into this last fight card. Now 12 of 15, still doing great. I've noticed I got a lot of hate on my IG, a lot of hatred, even in the YouTube comments here, personal attacks, all that stuff. Luckily, my skin is very thick. It's very rough, and I can handle that type of stuff. In fact, I kind of like it. It's kind of sick. I kind of enjoy it. So I'm not saying all you guys should enjoy when you got haters out there like that. Maybe you should try to avoid it a little bit, but understand when people are giving you negativity, when you're starting to hit strides in your life, that it's with the territory. It definitely comes with it. So just don't dwell on it. Don't let it get you down. Focus on what you're doing and how you're moving forward and what your overall goals are. And you stay on that track, man, and you'll do good. So just know that. All right, guys. And for all you haters out there, I know the haters aren't even in watching the video at this point in time. They come in and probably pick my brain on a couple fights because they respect my work ethic and what I do here from a betting perspective. But for whatever reason, they don't like me. I think that my dry sense of humor at times, I try to poke fun. I think a lot of times people don't realize I'm joking. They think I'm serious. So if you guys don't get that I'm joking around 80% of the time, that's on you guys. I know you guys know what's up. And I appreciate all you guys the most. And that's something that I will always continue to say here at the end of my videos. Without you guys, we don't got nothing going on over here with the channel and whatnot and the brand. And there's big things coming up, starting a clothing line. That's going to be taking its time as we work that moving forward, because I'm not going to just throw out some cheesy MMA clothing brand to you guys. I'm definitely going to work something dope, something that I would want to wear. I'm a big fan of, well, I don't even need to say that. I'm a giant fan of MMA and the UFC. I mean, we live and breathe this type of stuff. I've always wanted to wear MMA apparel and MMA clothing when I go out and whatnot, and a lot of them are just really not up to par, in my opinion. A lot of them are kind of cheesy. The clothing brand that I'm going to come out with that revolves around MMA is going to be something that you guys want to wear. It's going to be dope, and obviously it's going to have a twist of betting on it, betting mixed in with the fighting. It's going to be something that we all enjoy, and you guys stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming in the near future. A lot of big things coming up, so I can't wait to show you guys that as we progress here with the channel. So on that note, I'll leave you guys with that. I appreciate all you guys, and a lot more coming. Go check me out on IG. A lot of content coming over there to you guys on IG. MMA Fortune Teller _ signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.